The council chamber was enormous. Jack Morrison stood in the center of the circular room, feeling very small. Above him, representatives from 12 different alien species sat in their elevated seats. Some had 4 arms, others glowed with strange lights. A few looked like giant insects. All of them stared down at him with expressions he could not quite read. Jack was Earth's ambassador. He had been a Navy officer before this assignment, but nothing in his military training prepared him for this moment. He wore his formal diplomatic suit and carried a small data pad with his prepared speech. His hands were steady, but his heart beat fast in his chest. Chancellor Vex sat in the highest seat. He was a Retharian, with 4 arms and purple skin that changed shades when he moved. Vex had led the council for over 100 Earth years. He looked bored as he reviewed the papers in front of him. The ambassador from humanity requests membership in the Galactic Council. Vex's voice echoed through the chamber. His translator device made his words sound flat and emotionless. We have reviewed their petition. We have examined their ships. We have studied their technology. The Chancellor paused and looked directly at Jack. They are very primitive. Several council members made sounds that Jack assumed were laughter. The insect-like Zenthari clicked their mandibles together. The glowing lumini pulsed with colors that seemed amused. Even the normally quiet Cortani delegate shook their heads slowly. Jack kept his face neutral. He had expected this. Earth's diplomatic team knew the council would not take them seriously at first. Humans had only achieved faster-than-light travel 30 years ago. Most species in the galaxy had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Your ships are crude. Vex continued reading from his report. Your weapons are simple. Your understanding of galactic law is basic. You have contacted only 3 other species besides those represented here. Frankly, we are surprised you managed to find Kepler Prime at all. More laughter echoed through the chamber. Jack waited. He had been told not to interrupt. The council liked to talk. They liked to show their superiority. Let them, his superiors had said. Let them think we are weak and stupid. However, Vex raised one of his 4 hands. The council is not without mercy. We recognize that all species must start somewhere. Therefore, we offer humanity associate membership. You will have limited trading rights. You will have access to our public databases. You will be protected under council law. Jack noticed what Vex did not say. Associate members could not vote. Associate members could not propose new laws. Associate members had to ask permission for almost everything. It was better than nothing, but not by much. Thank you, Chancellor. Jack's voice was calm and respectful. Earth accepts your generous offer. We understand our place as newcomers to galactic society. We have much to learn from the older, wiser species. Vex seemed pleased by this response. Indeed you do. The Council will send you updated regulations and requirements. You may establish one small embassy here on Kepler Prime. Your trading vessels must register with our customs authority. Your exploration ships must stay within designated zones. Jack nodded and made notes on his datapad. He asked questions that made him sound eager and naive. He thanked the council members for their patience. He played the role of the humble supplicant perfectly. Before I leave, Jack said, may I ask one question? When might humanity be considered for full membership? Vex thought about this. Perhaps in 500 years. If you prove yourselves worthy. If you demonstrate technological advancement. If you contribute meaningfully to galactic civilization. These things take time, Ambassador Morrison. 500 years. Jack let that sink in. That was longer than the entire history of modern human civilization. Of course, Chancellor. We understand. Thank you again for your time. As Jack turned to leave, he caught Vex looking at him with an expression that might have been suspicion. For just a moment, the Chancellor seemed uncertain. But then the moment passed and Vex returned his attention to other matters. Jack walked through the long corridors of Kepler Prime Station. His ship was docked at Bay 17. Dr. Sam Chen was waiting for him there. Sam was Earth's top scientist on this mission. A small woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. How did it go? Sam asked as Jack climbed aboard. Exactly as expected. Jack allowed himself a small smile. They think we are children playing with toys we do not understand. They offered us associate membership. Sam smiled back. Perfect. She activated the ship's communication system. All stations, this is Chen. The ambassador is aboard. Begin Phase 2. The ship pulled away from Kepler Prime. As they moved into open space, Jack looked at the massive station through the viewport. From here, he could see dozens of ships from different species. Some were beautiful, all smooth curves and glowing energy fields. Others were purely functional, just metal boxes with engines attached. None of them looked like weapons. That was the difference between these species and humanity. They had grown comfortable. They had forgotten what it meant to fight for survival. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Admiral Katie Pierce stood on the bridge of her flagship. The EDS Defiance was the largest warship humanity had ever built. It was 3 kilometers long and carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Around it, 46 other capital ships held position in perfect formation. Navigation. What is our status? Pierce was a tall woman with gray hair and the bearing of someone who had spent 40 years in military service. All ships ready, Admiral. We can jump to Kepler Prime on your order. Pierce looked at the tactical display. Each ship showed green. Every system was operational. Every crew member was at their station. She had trained these people for 5 years. They were ready. We wait for the signal. Pierce settled into her command chair. Let the Council enjoy their illusions for a few more days. Then they will learn what humanity really is. Back on Kepler Prime, the Council continued with its daily business. Representatives discussed trade agreements and territorial disputes. They argued about regulations and cultural exchanges. No one mentioned the humans again. That matter was settled. But in the intelligence centers of several species, analysts noticed strange things. The Zenthari military picked up unusual energy readings at the edge of their space. The Rytharian spy network reported that human merchant ships had been mapping jump routes with very precise instruments. The Lumini Observatory detected gravity distortions that suggested large masses moving through space. When these reports reached the Council, Vex dismissed them. Probably just natural phenomena. The humans barely have 10 ships. They cannot possibly be a threat. Focus on important matters. And so the Council focused on other things. They had no idea that everything was about to change. They did not know that humanity had been preparing for this moment for 15 years. They did not understand that humans were very good at appearing weak while building strength in secret. In 3 days, Earth's fleet would arrive at Kepler Prime. In 3 days, the Council would learn that they had made a serious mistake. In 3 days, everything they thought they knew about humanity would be proven wrong. But for now, Jack Morrison's ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, heading for a rendezvous point in deep space. For now, Admiral Pierce waited with her fleet, counting down the hours. For now, the galaxy remained ignorant of what was coming. The storm was building. Soon it would break over Kepler Prime like nothing the Council had ever seen. The alarm started at exactly midnight station time. All across Kepler Prime, emergency lights flashed red. Computer screens filled with warnings. Sensor operators stared at their displays in disbelief. 47 massive ships had appeared out of nowhere. They dropped from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, just outside the neutral zone. The ships were human, and they were clearly built for war. Chancellor Vex was pulled from his sleep by urgent messages. He rushed to the Council Operations Center, still wearing his sleeping robes. Other Council members arrived within minutes. Everyone looked confused and frightened. The main screen showed the human fleet. Each ship bristled with weapons. Their hulls were thick armor, not the elegant designs most species preferred. These were vessels built for one purpose, fighting. How is this possible? Vex's purple skin had turned almost white with shock. The humans barely have any ships. Where did these come from? A Zenthari military analyst stepped forward. General Crix was an expert in spacecraft design. He studied the screen with all 4 of his eyes. Chancellor, these are not simple vessels. Look at the shield generators. Look at the weapon placement. These ships incorporate technology from at least 6 different species, but they changed it. Crix pointed at one of the larger ships. See those modifications? They took our designs and made them better, more efficient, more powerful. This should not be possible for such a young species. A communication request came through. It was from the largest human ship, the one at the center of the formation. The ship was called EDS Defiance, and it was 3 times larger than the biggest Council warship. Open the channel. Vex tried to sound calm, but his voice shook slightly. The screen changed to show a human woman in military uniform. She had gray hair and cold blue eyes. This is Admiral Katie Pierce of the United Earth Defense Force. I request an immediate emergency session of the Galactic Council. We need to discuss the terms of Earth's membership. We already discussed your membership. Vex tried to maintain his authority. You accepted associate status just 3 days ago. Admiral Pierce smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. That was before you understood our actual capabilities. I suggest we renegotiate. My fleet is prepared to wait here until the Council is ready to meet. The communication ended. Vex looked around at the other Council members. Everyone was talking at once. The Lumini representative glowed with anxious colors. The Cortani delegate was already calculating political consequences. Even Crix, the experienced military officer, looked worried. Within 2 hours, the full council assembled. This time, the chamber felt different. The council members were nervous. They whispered to each other and kept glancing at security displays that showed the human fleet still waiting in perfect formation outside. Jack Morrison entered the chamber. But now his simple diplomatic ship was escorted by 3 human destroyers. The destroyers were each the size of a council cruiser, and their weapons were clearly visible. Jack himself looked exactly the same as before, calm and professional. Ambassador Morrison. Vex's voice was much more careful now. Please explain what is happening. Where did this fleet come from? Why did you not tell us about it? Jack stood in the center of the chamber again. This time he did not look small. Because you did not ask, Chancellor. You made assumptions based on incomplete information. That was your mistake, not ours. Several council members made angry sounds. Jack ignored them and continued speaking. Let me tell you about humanity. We are a young species, yes. But we are not stupid. We are not weak. And we are definitely not naive. Humans evolved on a harsh planet. We spent millions of years fighting to survive. We fought predators. We fought disease. We fought each other. We learned to be very good at war because species that were bad at war went extinct. Dr. Sam Chen entered the chamber, carrying a data pad. She projected images onto the main screen. The images showed human history, ancient armies, medieval castles, modern tanks, nuclear weapons, spacecraft. 15 years ago, Chen said, our first faster-than-light probe detected this station. We found the Council. We learned about galactic civilization, and we realized we needed to be very careful. So we watched. We listened. We studied how the Council operated. We learned which species had power and which did not. We understood that appearing weak would give us valuable information. Chen showed more images. These were human shipyards, massive construction facilities in orbit around Earth and Mars and Europa. Thousands of workers built ships around the clock. The fleet you see outside is just the first wave. We have 3 more fleets in reserve. The council chamber erupted in noise. Delegates shouted questions. Security officers moved nervously. Vex raised all 4 hands for silence. This is deception. Vex's skin had turned dark purple with anger. You lied to us. You pretended to be primitive while building a war fleet. This is not how civilized species behave. Jack met Vex's eyes without flinching. We learned deception from studying galactic politics, Chancellor. We watched how your council treats new species. You judge them by their military power. You give respect to those who are strong and contempt to those who are weak. We chose to show you weakness first because it told us how you think. Now we are showing you strength. And now you will treat us with the respect we deserve. What do you want? The Cortani delegate spoke up. She was an older female with wise eyes. Clearly you did not bring this fleet just to make a point. Jack nodded to her. We want full membership, voting rights, access to all council resources and databases, recognition of our territorial claims, and a permanent seat on the Security Committee. The demands caused more shouting. The Security Committee had only 3 members, the 3 oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. No new species had ever been given such access. This is impossible. Vex slammed one hand on his desk. You cannot simply threaten your way into power. The Council has laws. We have procedures. We have thousands of years of tradition. Jack remained calm. We are not threatening anyone, Chancellor. We are simply stating facts. Earth has the military strength to operate independently if we choose. We could ignore the Council completely. We could establish our own trade networks, our own alliances, our own rules. But we would prefer to work within the system. We would prefer to be partners with the other species of the galaxy. The question is whether the Council is wise enough to accept partnership with equals or foolish enough to make us into rivals. Admiral Pierce's face appeared on another screen. To demonstrate that our offer is sincere, I am authorized to make a proposal. Earth will provide military protection to all council members. We will patrol trade routes. We will respond to pirate attacks. We will train your defense forces in modern combat techniques. In exchange, we ask only for the membership terms Ambassador Morrison described. We want to be part of galactic civilization, not apart from it. But we will be full members or no members at all. The council session lasted for 6 hours. Delegates argued and debated. Some wanted to reject the human demands out of pride. Others recognized that Earth's military power was real and could not be ignored. A few saw opportunity in having such capable allies. Finally, the Cortani delegate requested permission to speak. She looked around at her fellow council members. We can debate this for days, but the truth is simple. Humanity has power. They have offered to use that power constructively. We would be fools to refuse. I propose we accept their terms, not because they forced us, but because it is the smart choice. The galaxy is not as safe as we pretend. Having human ships protecting our trade routes might be exactly what we need. One by one, other delegates agreed. Some voted yes reluctantly. Others voted yes enthusiastically. When the final count was finished, humanity had won full membership in the Galactic Council. Vex voted last. His vote was no, but even he could see that the council had made its decision. The humans had changed everything in just 3 days. The celebration on Earth lasted for 3 days. People filled the streets of every major city. They cheered and waved flags. Humanity was no longer a minor player in galactic politics. They were full members of the council with all the rights and privileges that came with it. But Admiral Katie Pierce did not celebrate. She stood on the bridge of the Defiance and studied tactical reports. Her fleet had made an impression on the council, but impressions only lasted so long. Now humanity had to prove they could deliver on their promises. The first test came exactly 1 week after the council vote. A message arrived from the Outer Rim territories, the edge of explored space where council authority was weak. The message was urgent and desperate. Pirates had attacked 3 colony worlds. But these were not ordinary pirates. The Darkari were a species of nomadic raiders who had been terrorizing the frontier for decades. They had fast ships and no interest in negotiation. They took what they wanted and killed anyone who resisted. Previous council response fleets had failed to stop the Darkari. The raiders were too quick, too unpredictable. They would strike and vanish before help arrived. The frontier colonies lived in constant fear. Chancellor Vex called an emergency meeting. The council needs someone to deal with the Darkari situation. His voice was carefully neutral. I suggest we assign this task to our newest member. Earth has promised to provide security. Now they can prove they are capable. Jack Morrison understood what Vex was doing. This was a test designed to make humanity fail. If Earth could not stop the Darkari, the council would say humans were all talk and no substance. If Earth used too much force, they would be called brutal warmongers. Either way, Vex would have ammunition to use against them. Earth accepts this assignment. Jack kept his voice calm. Admiral Pierce will lead the response fleet personally. We will depart within 24 hours. Pierce assembled her officers in the Defiance briefing room. She displayed a map of the Outer Rim on the main screen. Red markers showed where the Darkari had attacked. Blue markers showed where Council defense forces had tried and failed to intercept them. The pattern is clear. Pierce pointed at the map. The Darkari hit isolated targets. They avoid any system with significant defenses. They want easy victories and quick escapes. The Council has been trying to protect everything and ending up protecting nothing. What is your plan, Admiral? One of her captains asked. We do the opposite. Pierce smiled grimly. We abandon the scattered defense positions. We concentrate our entire fleet at one location and wait for the Darkari to come to us. The officers looked shocked. But Admiral, that means leaving other colonies unprotected. Another captain objected. Exactly. Pierce pulled up detailed information about a colony called New Carthage. This world is wealthy and poorly defended. Intelligence suggests the Darkari have been planning to attack it for months. We will make it look like an easy target. Then when they commit their forces, we will destroy them. The fleet jumped to New Carthage within a day. The colony government was terrified when they learned about the plan. Pierce met with their leaders personally. Trust me, she spoke with absolute confidence. The Darkari will come here, and when they do, they will regret it. Pierce positioned her ships carefully. Most of the fleet hid behind New Carthage's 2 moons. Only a few destroyers remained in visible orbit, just enough to make the defenses look real but not strong. Long-range sensors watched for any approaching vessels. They waited for 3 days. Pierce spent the time drilling her crews and reviewing tactics. She studied every battle the Darkari had ever fought. She looked for patterns and weaknesses. She found several. On the 4th day, sensors detected the enemy. 38 Darkari ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. They were exactly where Pierce predicted they would be. The Darkari moved quickly toward New Carthage. Their ships were sleek and fast, built for hit-and-run attacks. They probably expected the few human destroyers in orbit to run away. That was what usually happened when they attacked. But the human ships did not run. Instead, they opened fire at maximum range. The Darkari shields absorbed the hits easily. The raiders probably laughed. They accelerated toward the planet, ready to finish the weak defenders. Then the trap closed. The rest of the human fleet emerged from behind the moons. 40 capital ships appeared in perfect formation, their weapons already charged and aimed. The Darkari suddenly found themselves surrounded. All ships fire at will. Pierce gave the order calmly. The human fleet opened up with everything they had. Missiles streaked through space. Energy beams cut through Darkari shields. Point defense systems destroyed anything that got too close. The raiders tried to scatter, but every escape route was blocked by human ships. Human fighter pilots launched from their carriers. These pilots had trained for years in simulators that recreated every possible combat scenario. They flew with precision and aggression that shocked the Darkari. In atmosphere, fighter combat requires careful maneuvering and awareness of gravity. In space, those same pilots found it almost easy. The battle lasted 6 hours. The Darkari fought hard, but they were completely outmatched. Human weapons hit with brutal efficiency. Human tactics gave them no room to maneuver. Human coordination meant that every ship knew exactly where every other ship was and what it was doing. Pierce watched from the bridge as the enemy fleet fell apart. She did not enjoy destruction, but she understood its necessity. The Darkari respected strength. They needed to learn that attacking Council worlds would bring overwhelming response. Finally, the Darkari leader sent a surrender signal. His ship was badly damaged, leaking atmosphere. Most of his fleet was either destroyed or disabled. He requested terms. Pierce opened a communication channel. She looked at the Darkari leader with cold eyes. You have 2 choices. Continue fighting and die, or accept our terms and live. What will it be? The Darkari leader was a scarred veteran who had probably never lost a battle before. What are your terms? He asked, his pride clearly wounded. You will stop all raiding immediately. You will return all stolen property and release all prisoners. You will submit to Council authority and accept whatever judgment they decide. Pierce paused. Or you can choose a different path. You can join galactic civilization properly. Work instead of steal. Trade instead of raid. We will help you transition if you agree. The offer surprised everyone, including the Darkari. Why would you help us? The leader asked suspiciously. Because humanity has learned something the Council seems to have forgotten. Pierce spoke seriously. Beaten enemies either become bitter rebels or useful allies, the choice of which depends on how you treat them after victory. We would prefer allies. Most of the Darkari accepted the offer. Pierce arranged for their ships to be repaired and their people to receive training for legitimate jobs. A few stubborn raiders refused and were turned over to Council justice. But the majority chose to change. News of the battle spread quickly across the galaxy. The Council members who had doubted humanity fell silent. The frontier colonies celebrated. Chancellor Vex, watching from Kepler Prime, realized that his test had completely backfired. Not only had humanity won, but they had won in a way that made them look wise and merciful. They had proved their military strength and their moral character at the same time. Vex had tried to make them fail and had instead given them an opportunity to shine. Ambassador Morrison received congratulations from dozens of species. Even the Cortani delegate, usually reserved, sent a personal message praising Earth's handling of the situation. The galaxy was learning that humans were very good at turning problems into opportunities, and that was a lesson that would change everything. 6 months passed. Earth's position in the galactic community grew stronger with each passing week. Human patrol ships protected trade routes that had been dangerous for decades. Human diplomats helped resolve disputes between species that had been arguing for centuries. Human scientists shared research that advanced galactic knowledge in unexpected ways. But not everyone was happy with these changes. Chancellor Vex watched humanity's rise with growing concern. The Retharians had dominated council politics for 300 years. Now, suddenly, a species barely 30 years into space travel was making decisions that affected the entire galaxy. Vex was not stupid. He knew he could not attack humanity directly. Earth's military was too strong, and their diplomatic skills were surprisingly effective. Instead, he worked quietly to limit their influence. He blocked human proposals in committee meetings. He spread rumors about human ambitions. He built alliances with other species who felt threatened by the newcomers. Then something happened that changed everything. A distress signal came from the border region between council space and unexplored territory. The signal was automated, repeating the same message over and over. Ancient defense systems had activated. All ships were being destroyed on sight. The council sent a small exploration fleet to investigate. 3 ships jumped to the location. None of them came back. Their last transmissions showed weapons of incredible power, technology far beyond anything the modern galaxy possessed. Panic spread through the council chambers. These ancient weapons belonged to a civilization that had died millions of years ago. No one knew why they had activated now. No one knew how to stop them. And worst of all, the weapons were positioned on a direct route to several major colony worlds. We need to send a military force. General Crix of the Zenthari studied the available data, but these weapons destroyed our ships in seconds. We need something that can survive long enough to find a weakness. The council argued for hours. Some species wanted to evacuate the threatened colonies. Others wanted to try diplomatic contact with the ancient systems. A few suggested simply avoiding the area and hoping the weapons would deactivate on their own. Ambassador Morrison listened to the debate. Finally, he raised his hand. Earth will handle this. Admiral Pierce has experience with unknown threats. Dr. Chen is an expert in ancient technology. Give us permission to attempt a solution. Chancellor Vex saw his opportunity. He hid his satisfaction behind a mask of concern. Of course, Ambassador Morrison. The Council would be grateful for any assistance Earth can provide. He did not mention that he expected the humans to fail. If Admiral Pierce and her ships were destroyed, humanity would lose its greatest military asset. Pierce assembled a task force of 12 ships. She chose her best crews and her most advanced vessels. Dr. Chen loaded her computers with every piece of information the Council had about ancient civilizations. They prepared for 3 days, studying the enemy and planning their approach. The task force jumped to the border region. The ancient defense platform was immediately visible on sensors. It was huge, a construct built into an asteroid that must have taken decades to create. Weapons bristled from every surface. Energy readings suggested power sources that modern science could barely understand. The platform detected them immediately. Beams of pure energy lanced across space. The first shots missed, but the second volley hit one of Pierce's destroyers. The ship's shields held for exactly 3 seconds before collapsing. The destroyer's captain ordered immediate retreat before the ship was destroyed. Pull back to minimum safe distance. Pierce watched the tactical display with narrowed eyes. Chen, how long do you need to analyze these weapons? Dr. Chen worked frantically at her computer station. The weapons are automated, no biological operators. They are identifying targets based on energy signatures. Modern fusion drives must trigger their attack protocols. Can we mask our signatures? Pierce asked. Not completely. But maybe we can confuse them. Chen's fingers flew across her keyboard. If we vary our engine output randomly, the targeting systems might have trouble locking on. It is not much, but it might give us the time we need. Time for what? Chen pulled up a schematic of the ancient platform. Every automated system needs a control node, something that coordinates the weapons and makes targeting decisions. If we can find it and destroy it, the whole platform should shut down. Pierce studied the schematic. The control node would be protected deep inside the asteroid. Getting to it would require getting past all those weapons. It seemed impossible. But impossible was just another word for difficult, and humans were very good at difficult things. Pierce called her captains. She explained the plan. 3 ships would attack from different directions, varying their engine signatures to confuse the targeting systems. While the weapons focused on them, a small team would use a stealth shuttle to approach the asteroid. They would infiltrate the platform, find the control node, and destroy it. It was a desperate plan. The 3 attack ships would probably be destroyed. The infiltration team might not make it inside. Even if they did, they might not find the control node in time. But it was the only plan they had. Pierce chose to lead the infiltration team herself. Her officers protested. An admiral should not risk herself on such a dangerous mission. But Pierce was firm. She had asked her people to risk everything. She would not ask them to do something she was unwilling to do herself. The attack began at dawn, station time. 3 human cruisers approached the ancient platform from different angles. Their engines varied output randomly, creating confusing energy signatures. The ancient weapons fired, but their targeting was erratic. Some shots missed completely. Others hit but did not penetrate shields. While the platform focused on the cruisers, Pierce's shuttle slipped toward the asteroid. The shuttle was small and moved slowly, minimizing its energy signature. The ancient sensors did not detect it. The shuttle landed on the surface, and Pierce's team entered through an old maintenance tunnel. Inside the asteroid, everything was dark and cold. The ancient civilization had been dead for millions of years, but their technology still functioned. Emergency lights flickered as the team moved through corridors built for creatures very different from humans. Chen had a portable scanner that followed the power signatures. The control node was deep in the asteroid, protected by multiple blast doors. The team had to cut through each door with plasma torches. Every minute they spent inside was another minute the cruisers had to survive outside. Outside, the battle was going badly. One cruiser's shields failed. The captain ordered evacuation, and crew members scrambled to escape pods. The ancient weapons destroyed the ship seconds after the last pod launched. The other 2 cruisers kept fighting, but they were taking heavy damage. Pierce's team reached the control node chamber. The node was a sphere of crystal and metal, glowing with strange energy. Chen scanned it quickly. We can overload it with a feedback pulse, but someone needs to stay here to activate the pulse at exactly the right moment. Pierce understood immediately. Whoever stayed would not have time to escape before the overload. It was a death sentence. She looked at her team. I will do it. The rest of you get back to the shuttle. Her team refused to leave. After a brief argument, Pierce pulled rank and ordered them out. They obeyed reluctantly, leaving her alone in the control chamber with Chen's scanner and a timer counting down. Pierce activated the feedback pulse. The crystal sphere began to glow brighter. Energy readings spiked dangerously. She tried to run, but debris from the ceiling blocked her path. She was trapped. Outside, the ancient weapons suddenly stopped firing. The control node had overloaded, shutting down the entire platform. The 2 surviving cruisers moved in quickly, their crews searching desperately for any sign of the admiral. They found her unconscious, badly injured but alive. The explosion had thrown her against a wall, breaking several bones and causing internal injuries. They rushed her to medical bay, where doctors worked frantically to save her life. News of the mission's success spread across the galaxy. The ancient weapons were neutralized. The colony worlds were safe, but everyone knew the cost. Admiral Pierce was in critical condition, and no one knew if she would survive. Admiral Katie Pierce woke up in a hospital room on Kepler Prime. Her body ached everywhere. Medical monitors beeped softly beside her bed. Through the window, she could see the familiar curve of the station against the backdrop of stars. A doctor entered, a lumine whose crystalline body pulsed with gentle blue light. You're very lucky, Admiral. The doctor's translated voice was calm and professional. Your injuries were severe, but you will make a full recovery. How long have I been here? Pierce's voice was rough from disuse. 5 days. You have been unconscious for most of that time, but many people have been waiting to see you. Shall I allow visitors? Pierce nodded. Her first visitor surprised her. Chancellor Vex entered the room slowly, all 4 of his arms held in a formal posture of respect. His purple skin had taken on a softer shade. Admiral Pierce. Vex's voice was quiet. I'm glad to see you are recovering. The galaxy would be poorer without your presence. Pierce studied him carefully. Thank you, Chancellor, though I suspect you are surprised to be saying that. Vex made a gesture that might have been a smile. You are correct. When your species first came to the Council, I thought you were dangerous barbarians. Then I thought you were clever manipulators. Now I realize you are something far more complicated. He moved closer to her bed. I sent you to face the ancient weapons because I wanted you to fail. I am not proud of that. But you succeeded where I expected failure. More than that, you risked your own life to save colonies that are not even human. That is not the action of a barbarian or a manipulator. That is the action of someone who genuinely cares about others. Pierce met his eyes. We all make mistakes, Chancellor. The question is what we do after we realize our errors. Vex was quiet for a long moment. I have opposed your species at every turn. I have tried to limit your influence and damage your reputation. I was wrong to do so. From this day forward, Earth will have my support in the Council. You have earned it. After Vex left, other visitors came. Jack Morrison brought reports from Earth. Dr. Chen brought flowers from 6 different worlds. Captain Harris from the Defiance brought messages from the crew. Everyone was relieved that their admiral would recover. Pierce spent 2 weeks in the hospital. When she was finally released, she found that the galaxy had changed. Chancellor Vex kept his word. He not only stopped opposing human initiatives but actively supported them. Other council members, seeing Vex's change of attitude, followed his lead. Humanity's influence continued to grow, but now it felt different. Instead of fighting for recognition, humans were simply accepted as valued members of galactic society. Their ships patrolled alongside vessels from a dozen other species. Their diplomats worked as partners, not rivals. Their scientists collaborated freely with researchers from across the galaxy. The Darkari, who had accepted integration, were thriving. Former pirates now worked as security specialists, using their knowledge of criminal tactics to help protect trade routes. Their leader, now called Captain Drake instead of his old raiding name, commanded a mixed crew of humans and Darkari on a patrol ship. 6 months after her injury, Pierce attended a ceremony at Council headquarters. The Council was awarding humanity its highest honor, the Star of Unity, for their service to galactic civilization. Jack Morrison accepted the award on behalf of Earth. Morrison gave a speech that was broadcast across the galaxy. 1 year ago, humanity was unknown to most of you. We were just another primitive species from a backwater world. You did not take us seriously. Many of you thought we were weak or stupid or both, but we proved you wrong, not through conquest or domination, not by making threats or starting wars. We proved ourselves by being reliable, by keeping our promises, by helping those who needed help, by showing that strength means nothing without the wisdom to use it properly. Morrison paused and looked around the chamber. We have learned from you. Your science, your culture, your history. All of these things have made humanity better, but we hope you have learned from us too. We hope you have learned that newcomers should not be judged by their appearance, that strength comes in many forms, that yesterday's enemies can become tomorrow's friends. The council members stood and applauded. Even Vex, who had opposed humanity so strongly at the beginning, clapped all 4 of his hands together. After the ceremony, Pierce and Morrison stood together looking out a viewport at the stars. How does it feel? Pierce asked. We actually did it. We made humanity a real part of galactic civilization. Morrison smiled. It feels like the beginning, not the end. We have proven we belong here. Now we need to prove we can help make the galaxy better for everyone. A message came through on Morrison's communicator. He read it and smiled wider. Speaking of making things better, remember that petition from the Vernians? The new species requesting membership? Pierce nodded. I heard they were technologically advanced but had no military to speak of. The council was debating whether to give them associate status. Not anymore. The council just voted to grant them full membership. Chancellor Vex proposed it himself. He argued that species should be judged on their potential contributions, not their military power. Pierce laughed. That is quite a change from the Chancellor who offered us associate membership a year ago. People can change. Morrison looked thoughtful. That might be the most important thing we have taught the Council. Not how to fight or build ships or negotiate treaties, but how to change, how to admit when you are wrong and do better. The next Council session was remarkable. The Vernians were welcomed as full members with all rights and privileges. Several other species who had been waiting decades for consideration were fast-tracked for membership. The old system of judging species by their military strength was officially abandoned. Vex approached Morrison after the session. He looked tired but satisfied. Who would have thought that primitive hunters would teach the galaxy about civilization? Morrison smiled. Maybe that is exactly why we could see what needed to change. We remembered what it was like to be underestimated. We remembered what it felt like to be dismissed as insignificant. And because we remembered, we wanted to make sure no other species would be treated that way. The two stood together in silence for a moment. Then Vex extended one of his forehands. I was wrong about humanity. I am glad I was wrong. The galaxy is better with you in it. Morrison shook his hand. The galaxy is better because we are all learning to work together. Humans did not change the council alone. We just showed what was possible. Now everyone is making it real. Across the galaxy, human ships flew in mixed formations with vessels from dozens of species. On frontier worlds, human colonists worked alongside alien settlers, building new communities together. In research labs, human scientists collaborated with their galactic counterparts, making discoveries that benefited everyone. Earth had become a true member of galactic civilization, not through conquest, not through fear, but through proving that they could be trusted. Through showing that strength and compassion were not opposites but partners. Through demonstrating that the newest species could sometimes teach the oldest ones important lessons. Admiral Pierce returned to the Defiance and resumed command of Earth's first fleet, but now her ships did not patrol alone. They flew with allies from across the galaxy, protecting a civilization that had finally learned to judge species by their character instead of their weapons. Jack Morrison continued his work as Earth's representative on the Security Committee. He helped shape policies that would govern galactic civilization for generations to come. And he never forgot the lesson from that first council meeting. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let others underestimate you until you are ready to show them the truth. The story of humanity's arrival in galactic society became legend. It was taught in schools across hundreds of worlds. Parents told it to their children as an example of why you should never judge others too quickly. Diplomats studied it to learn how newcomers could change ancient systems. And on Earth, in a small museum dedicated to the early days of galactic contact, there was a simple display. It showed the original associate membership document that Chancellor Vex had offered humanity. Next to it was the full membership charter that had replaced it just 3 days later. The caption beneath the display read, "They thought we were just humans. They learned we were exactly what the galaxy needed." 5 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. The changes during that time had transformed not just Earth's position in the galaxy, but the galaxy itself. What began as one species demanding recognition had become a movement that changed how all species interacted. Commander Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of the patrol ship Unity. She was young for a commander, only 32, but she had proven herself in 3 major operations. Today was different, though. Today she commanded a crew that included humans, Centauri, Cortani, and even 2 former Darkari raiders. The Unity patrolled the border regions, protecting trade ships and responding to emergencies. It was routine work but important. Commerce between worlds had tripled in the past 5 years. With increased trade came increased prosperity. Worlds that had struggled for generations were now thriving. A distress signal came through. Grant checked the location. It was from a small research station in a remote system. The message was fragmented, but the words ice storm and evacuation came through clearly. "Set course for the research station, maximum speed," Grant ordered. "Communications. Alert nearby ships in case we need backup." The Unity jumped to faster than light travel. Within an hour, they arrived at the system. The research station orbited a frozen world covered in methane ice. A massive storm was tearing across the surface, producing electromagnetic interference that disrupted communications. The station had 43 researchers from 7 different species. They needed evacuation immediately. The storm was generating energy surges that threatened the station's power systems. If those failed, life support would go down. In the extreme cold of the planet below, everyone would freeze within minutes. Grant assessed the situation. The electromagnetic interference made transporter systems unreliable. They would need to dock directly with the station. But the storm was creating gravitational anomalies that made navigation dangerous. Her Xanthari pilot, Officer Zara, studied the readings. "I can do it, Commander, but it will be rough. The ship will take damage, ships can be repaired. People cannot." Grant made her decision quickly. "Take us in." The Unity pushed through the interference. The ship's hull creaked under the stress of conflicting gravitational forces. Warning lights flashed across every console. But Zara's 4 hands moved expertly across the controls, making constant adjustments to keep them on course. They docked with the research station. The seal was not perfect, but it held. Grant led the rescue team personally. They moved through the station quickly, gathering the frightened researchers and guiding them back to the Unity. The last researcher was a Luminite scientist who had stayed behind to secure important data. Grant found him in the main lab, frantically trying to download files. The station shuddered as another power surge hit. "We need to leave now," Grant spoke urgently. "The station will not last much longer, just a few more seconds." The Luminite's crystalline body pulsed with stressed colors. "This research is years of work. If we lose it, everything is wasted." Grant made a decision. She grabbed a second datapad and helped him download files. The station's lights flickered. Somewhere metal groaned as structural supports began to fail. They finished the download with seconds to spare and ran for the airlock. The Unity pulled away from the station just as its power systems failed completely. Through the viewport, Grant watched the station go dark. But everyone was safe. All 43 researchers were aboard, cold and scared but alive. The Luminite scientist approached Grant in the ship's medical bay. He was being treated for minor injuries. "Thank you, Commander. You risked your life for my research." "Why would you do that?" Grant smiled. "Because that is what we do now. We help each other. It does not matter which species you are or where you come from. If you need help, we are there." That evening, Grant filed her report with Admiral Pierce. The Admiral read it carefully and sent back a brief message. "Well done, Commander. You made us proud." Stories like Grant's had become common. Human officers served on ships from a dozen species. Alien officers commanded human vessels. Mixed crews were now normal, not exceptional. The barriers between species were slowly dissolving. On Kepler Prime, the Council met to discuss the upcoming decade. Chancellor Vex, now in his final year of leadership, reflected on the changes he had witnessed. "When I first met the humans, I thought they would destroy everything we had built. Instead, they improved it in ways I could never have imagined." Ambassador Morrison, now a senior council member, spoke about the future. "We have accomplished much in 5 years, but we cannot become complacent. There are still species we have not contacted. There are still problems we have not solved. There is still work to do." The council discussed plans for expanding exploration. Teams of mixed species would venture into unexplored regions, seeking new civilizations to welcome into galactic society. The old practice of judging species by their military power was gone. Now contact teams focused on cultural exchange and peaceful integration. Dr. Sam Chen, now Director of Galactic Research Initiatives, presented a report on scientific progress. Human collaboration with other species had led to breakthroughs in medicine, energy production, and faster-than-light travel. New technologies were making life better for billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. But perhaps the greatest change was not in technology or politics. It was in attitude. Species that had been rivals for centuries were now partners. Ancient prejudices were fading. Young people from different worlds grew up learning each other's languages and studying each other's cultures. On Earth, a delegation of Vernian students visited to study human history. Their teacher, a human named Professor Helen Martinez, took them to important historical sites. She showed them ancient battlefields and told them stories of human conflicts. The Vernian students were shocked by the violence of human history. "How did you move past this?" one student asked. "How did you stop fighting each other?" Professor Martinez smiled sadly. "We learned, slowly and painfully, that fighting only brings more fighting. We learned that our similarities were more important than our differences. And we learned that working together made us all stronger than fighting alone." Another student spoke up. "Is that why humans were so good at bringing the galaxy together? Because you had already learned these lessons?" "Maybe." Martinez thought about it. "Or maybe we just remembered what it felt like to be divided. We saw the galaxy making the same mistakes we had made, and we wanted to help everyone avoid the pain we had gone through." Back on Kepler Prime, Admiral Pierce prepared for retirement. She had served for 45 years. And it was time to let younger officers take command. But before she left, she wanted to see one more thing. She traveled to the memorial built for the crew members who had died in various operations. The memorial listed names from dozens of species, all who had given their lives protecting galactic civilization. Human names appeared alongside Zenthari, Cortani, Lumini, and others. Pierce stood before the memorial for a long time. These people had died as members of a truly galactic civilization, not as representatives of individual species. That was the dream she had fought for. That was the future she wanted to leave behind. Jack Morrison found her there. "Ready to go home, Admiral?" Pierce nodded. "I am ready. We did what we set out to do. We proved that humanity belonged here. We proved that we could make a difference. Now it is time for others to carry on the work. They walked together through the station one last time. Everywhere they looked, they saw species working together. A Xanthari engineer helped a human technician repair a power conduit. A Cortani merchant haggled pleasantly with a Lumini trader. A mixed group of young officers laughed together in a recreation area. "This is what we fought for," Morrison said quietly. "Not dominance or control, just this. People living and working together as equals." Pierce smiled. "When we first came to the council, they said we were just humans, like being human was something small and insignificant. But we showed them that being human meant being survivors, being innovators, being warriors when necessary and peacemakers when possible. And now," Morrison added, "everyone is learning to be a little more human, not in biology but in spirit, learning to never give up, learning to help those who need it, learning that strength and compassion go together." They boarded the transport that would take them back to Earth. As the ship pulled away from Kepler Prime, Pierce took one last look at the station. Somewhere in those corridors, the next generation of leaders was learning and growing. They would face challenges that Pierce could not imagine. But she believed they would succeed, because the galaxy had learned the most important lesson humanity had to teach. That newcomers should be welcomed, not feared. That differences should be celebrated, not suppressed. That working together was always better than standing alone. The transport jumped to faster-than-light travel. Behind them, Kepler Prime continued its endless orbit. The council met and debated. Ships came and went. Life continued in the great galactic civilization that humanity had helped reshape. And across the galaxy, on hundreds of worlds, billions of beings lived better lives because one species had refused to accept the limits others tried to place on them, because humans had proved that being underestimated was an opportunity, not an insult, because Earth's fleet had arrived when it mattered most and changed everything.